day 2 of hitting is in the books. Some of the evaluations we had leading up to that are kind of getting removed or adjusted or enhanced. Physicality, the hitting, is the dividing between truth and lie. Flag football is flag football for a reason, and contact football is contact football for a reason. So day 2 brings us a bunch of news stories. We're not at a final evaluation stage. It's a long way from here to there. And whatever we're seeing now, we've got to take all of this up into the scrimmage point, put it over the scrimmages, see how they respond, and then look at the preseason. And then we can have our evaluation, a good one, entering into the season. So that's what I'm going to get into today's practice. There's some stories that are continuing from yesterday. Should we focus on them? New stuff popping up and all that. Now, I'm going to be doing a live this week, 10 p.m. Eastern time. So come join me there. I'm going to be doing that. And also, Al from 3 yards per carry, awesome guy, has been kind enough to let me interview him. I'm going to do that in the next couple of days and then put that up as a podcast. And you should be waiting for that because this guy knows the game. He's been doing it for a long time. And I always enjoy when I speak to him and spend time with him because I learn. And so that's going to be a good one. So that's it. The other day, before hitting started, I did a back end part of my podcast about the difference between contact and non-contact, pads and no pads. And Omar Kelly yesterday did an article. It was a good one. Check it out. And I'm going to just read some small excerpts so you can continue to dial in to understand what's going on here and what's going to continue to go on. Kendall Lamb, offensive Lamb, Kendall Lamb said, when asked what changes when pads come on at this stage, which can't happen until 5 days of field work. And he said basically everything. I can't grab anyone now. That rah-rah and everything else, we run power runs, and I have to see you bump your chest out when you run to the ball. When I climb to Duke Riley, I can actually grab Duke Riley. All that BS where your hands slip off, I don't do that Monday. Anybody can make a play without pads, especially since it's easier to get through a block. It's easier to call a hold. When the pads come on, you get an idea of how a player is. This is what David Long said, how aggressive they are, just their play style. And there's a good article. Check it out. And some of the stuff I was saying kind of confirms some of the things I was speaking about in my podcast. And it's critical to understand this when you're evaluating. And you have the physical aspect, the pads, and then you have the competitive aspect with new opponents as the next piece of the puzzle. So, yes, players got the pads on. Yes, they're being physical, but they know their opponents. And it's not the same as when you're playing an opponent who doesn't know you and really wants to take your head off. Although I'm sure sometimes that happens too amongst teammates. Anyway, so that's the deal. Guys, Reason started talking about Grayson Murphy a couple of days ago. I didn't really know about him. I was like, He posted, he's like, I expect this guy to make it. And he's doing well. He keeps popping up. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how he plays out. Al from 3 yards per carry really loves Brooks, Jordan Brooks, the middle linebacker, and these guys are popping every day. And so it does not mean they're going to be anything by the end of this, but it sure is a good sign. So keep your eyes on both these guys. Quentin Bell is another guy who's popping. And because we don't have Phillips and Chubb coming in right away, yeah, we have Kamara and we have Chop. These are the kind of guys you got to keep an eye on as someone who can be kept. And maybe they could shock us, and maybe they can hold it down to Chubb and Phillips gets here. And maybe these guys become a big piece of the puzzle. We need guys in on these edges, and these are two to pay attention to. Now, obviously, we brought Poyer in. We got Holland. And the safety group is huge. It keeps you from allowing big plays, and the way you use them properly can create big plays. Poyer picked off Tua in the robber role. This guy is a serious player. If he stays healthy, tied with Holland, with the rest, he's going to do some really great stuff for us. Now, a little concern. He has his thumb and his hand being looked at. He's an old guy. We don't know if that's going to be anything serious. But this is really, really good to see the back end of the safety group. Elliott was a good safety, but Poyer's way better. Elliott's younger, but he was even injured last year. But Poyer is the complete deal. And this is something that should be very, very exciting. Some people say, oh, Tua got picked off. Purdy got picked off 3 times today in practice. It happens at this stage, okay? Again, part of it is you're trying things out. Guys know you, whatever. So I wouldn't go too crazy, but Poyer has been doing this for years, and that's a good sign. Snapping issues. Lots of people are focused on snapping issues, and you should be, to a certain extent. Chris Kaufman from 3 yards per carry said, hey, look, we need to slow our roll on this for now. There was lots of snapping issues. Tua really hasn't taken too many snaps on the center. He's got Brewer there, who's a new guy. There's been snapping issues. He kind of was slowed down in a couple of days of practice. There was also some high snaps by Driscoll and Ireland Brown. There was all kind of snapping issues for 2 days now. And really, it's been a theme a little bit. And we should be concerned, but this is something that could just like disappear like that, and likely will. Brewer and Tua are working after practice, and anytime it's like a new relationship, and especially when it's on the center. So let's give this 2 or 3 more days. If we're seeing this after 5 days of pads on practice, then I think I would stop being worried. Unless, of course, the next 3 days are just as bad as this. Then I would be a little concerned. But at this stage, I'm not too concerned. For Brewer and Tua, although, again, I'll say we have some issues as a backup center. Driscoll is being really kind of given that. I think he is the key backup center. And again, I'm going to say that Eichenberg is set for right guard starting. Now, he struggled today a little bit, but he also had a good day too. But I can kind of tell by body language of the coaches what their intentions are for a player. I've seen how they treat certain guys up close when I played in college, and you kind of know certain things. I was like sort of a favorite among some coaches, and you could see the way they operate when they got favorites. And I've seen with other guys that they want to start, how they treat him. Eichenberg, he had a pretty good set of plays in the red zone, one against Campbell, and a lot of people were high on that. Travis Wingfield put it out, and then Butch Barry came off the sideline and gave him a chest bump. Now, that's a lot for a coach to do at this stage. That really means you're coming out there and doing something. I haven't heard anybody else get that. I'm not saying they did, but this is them trying to connect with the player, say something to the player, say something to the situation, really celebrate his success. And that means there's a lot of investment involved. So I really do think, for better or for worse, Eichenberg will be that starting right guard. But he did have some good plays today. He had some poor ones, but he did well in some areas. There was an 8-yard touchdown run between him and Brewer, opening things up. He slowed down Campbell. So let's see how he continues. But I think the concept is he is serious business. Now, John, who had a nice catch, but 2 drops. This tight end position is critical. I'm not too worried about the drops. I got to check his drop rate. But he's a big piece of the puzzle for so many reasons. He's come out of the backfield. People have talked about how awesome he looks coming out of the backfield. That's a big piece. You don't have to give that to Achane so much. You don't have to give it to Hill and Waddle so much. This guy's a big dude. And him working in the backfield, getting that football and that type of stuff, but him especially catching. There's a lot of reasons for that, for the leverage we're creating. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of Waddle and OBJ on the exterior when OBJ finally gets there, and Hill in the slot doing his motion, and then Jonnu there. And the leverage you create is going to open up stuff for Jonnu. I think this guy could play a huge role to allowing us to really get to that West Coast style offense and not have to throw it deep into the pocket and really utilize our quick time to throw more. So he's got to get that out of there. Tyndall is a guy who's really working to make this roster. I think he probably will because I think they're invested in him. He was run over by Wilson, but he had a really nice play to the edge, running down Achane. Guy's fast, but his read skills and physicality is the key. So let's see how that plays out. But it's a good sign-ish for Tyndall. Chop blew up Lamb and Ingold. He struggled against the run. He's done well against the run. This guy has all sorts of potential. Lamb is not the best run blocker. Ingold's hit and miss. So you got to have that context there. But blowing up 2 blocks is a nice little blip for those of us hoping that he can really set the edge. He can play well in the run game. And that means he can get a lot more snaps. Bonner, who I call Boner, I don't know. I guess that's the way I say it. This guy, I think, is definitely making, and he was reported to run step for step, one-on-one with Hill, and that says a ton. This guy really is intriguing me. Intrigued me last year, but, you can, small sample size, it's easy to look good. As your sample size expands, you get more of a genuine evaluation of a player. But so far, he's been doing good, and for him to do that, I want to see more, but this is a guy, I got to learn how to say his name properly, but be very excited about that. Storm Duck, a guy I'm very happy about. I don't think he's making a roster, but hopefully he can be good enough to get the practice squad. He's been popping. I love that name, Storm Duck. Oh, that is like a superhero name or something. Needham has been popping. He's showed up in the run game. He's showing up in the pass game. This is a big guy for us. He was really good for us, and then he had a series of injuries. I'm really liking what I'm seeing. You add in Kohu, and you need it because Cam wasn't at practice today, Cam Smith, and he's a big piece for us. But honestly, look, it sucks if Cam Smith struggles and he's not meeting up to his second round draft status. But you know what? If Bonner, he can really step up, and you found him late, and he plays really well for you. You want these big prime assets to play well for you, but it's the total soup. So let's pray that Storm Duck and Bonner and Needham and Kohu play really well. Let's hope Cam Smith gets back and really does his thing, because then that's like the oomph. Then you'd have a ton of stuff. But he's not been out again. I haven't heard anything about his injury. I need to look into that. Wilson ran very hard. We know he's dropped weight. And that means for the zone stretches, a lot of outside stuff. You need to have the speed to get to the edge, but then cut back in there. And he was playing very physical. As I said, he ran over Tyndall, but he limped off the field towards the end of practice in the red zone, but seemed fine afterwards. And then last, for those people, I think most people in the middle or to the positive side on Tua. This is a small group, or maybe a decent-sized group that don't believe in him. And I get why. I mean, as long as it's centered around the injury stuff, I still think the guy's got enough talent. But he's looking way more agile and fast with this weight drop. And the weight drop, yes, fairly to those who maybe are not so high, the weight drop means he will move more, and it puts him on the table for injury, a higher level of injury risk. But for his ability to get things done, to move within the pocket, move to the edge, and to have the agility to turn in the air and release that football across your shoulder on some of these rollouts to get yourself positioned square up on the field and release. This loss of weight is going to help him a ton. And I do believe if you look at what we're doing here, what we've done in the past, putting him on a mobile platform kind of goes into the concept that a lot of you could do with the West Coast offense. You can do to help protect your quarterback who might not have the best offensive line. And so this is putting him a little bit in a risk factor, because the more you move, the more chance you get hit, the lighter you are, the more a bigger guy hitting you can create inertia and damage you. But as the positive side, you're starting to see what his agility and speed as it rises, as the weight drops, can do for this kid. There's some misplay. I'll talk about he missed some deep passes. Most guys did, but the pressure was there. There was a lot of pressure involved today, but he also made some very nice plays, and he continues to show that when he's in, the offense looks different. Now, again, to be fair, we got to see how it plays out going forward. But clearly he is looking better. And this weight loss will create a higher possibility for his ceiling to raise. So I think that we got to just keep letting this stuff play out. Understand each phase of the evaluation, no pads and contact, scrimmaging opponents, and then games versus opponents in preseason, and then put it all together and then create your, final evaluation, and then let's see how it matches up to week one. I still am concerned with this offensive line. We still haven't seen Tehran. He hasn't come in. Still concerned about some things, but for the most part, I think pieces are here. But we need tightening up, especially on this offense with the snaps, with the blocking, and obviously with the connections with receivers. But there was that beautiful pass today by Tua, who had some pressure to the outside. I think it was Paul, and he stepped up and then delivered a nice ball, and then Waddle had that nice leaping catch. It was pretty. So I think we're in the right direction. Definitely some things need to play out, and we need to keep being healthy. But so far, so good, and that's what it is. Still a lot of ways to go, and let's see. Anyway, Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.